Let's go. Hey, let's go.
Girl, you the man, and she love me when I'm in it, and she never be pretending nothing is real. She gon' tell you where she bought it, cause she know you can't afford it. Know you can get it, looking exquisite, no competition. Stay on the pivot, who be watching, they be plotting. She so motherfucking independent.
Okay, it's ready for season 10. Who's ready for season 10? Me. Hi, everyone. I am Camille Cower, and I am your host for the E-Spot with Camille. And we are super thrilled that it is season 10. And today, for the first episode of season 10, I am super excited to bring with you guys a costume designer who's worked on several amazing films, from everything from The Great Gatsby to Five Nights at Freddy's, the sequel. She's worked on that as well. She has worked with Beyoncé on her concert tour. She has worked several different, huge festivals, from Sundance to Toronto to Tribeca. I'm looking at her resume because there's so much to talk about. She has worked on mainstream hits from We Have Ghosts, Story Ave, Freaky, Happy Death Day to You, Paranormal Activity, Next of Kin, India's Sweet and Spices, and Irreplaceable You, and so many more. But most recently, like I said, she just wrapped on Five Nights at Freddy 2. She styled the Baseball is Something Else campaign for Major League Baseball with North Carolina's very own Brian Tyree Henry, which is super exciting. And she still finds time to negotiate for other people's pay on union committees. She's an active member of the Costume Designers Guild Local 892 and United Scenic Artists Local 829 as well. She serves on multiple boards and has been on the front lines of getting costume designers pay equity with art directors. I cannot wait to speak with her. Let's wait no longer. Without any further ado, welcome to the E-Spot, Whitney.
All right. I don't want to waste a single minute because after that intro, I have to get into this as quickly as possible because I want to make sure we maximize this. But we're going to start off with the very beginning because this was so impressive to me that at 2 years old, you had already memorized Mary Poppins.
I love that movie so much. It was how I learned to talk. And so I had this terrible British accent for a year, like the Dick Van Dyke terrible accent.
Oh,
and you have to. And so It was totally my favorite movie. And it was one of my first Halloween costumes. And my mom did her best. But it was great that, later on I worked for the designer of Mary Poppins and I gave him a photo of me in my Mary Poppins outfit at age 3 that my mom made, and he loved it. So that was a nice, full circle moment for me.
Okay. I love when those kind of kismet moments happen. So share a little bit about how you ended up mimicking Mary Poppins to designing with Mary Poppins as designer. That's not everybody
pretty
gets that dream.
crazy.
Yeah.
No, exactly. It was through a connection I went to UC San Diego for college, and one of the alumni I became friends with, and I assisted her on a couple Shakespeare shows. And then she had worked with the designer, Tony Walton, and he needed someone to help archive his life's work. It was to organize it. He's getting up there in age. He wanted to make sure it was all together and wanted to find a home for it. And so I spent, I think, 6 to 9 months sitting with him every day and going through everything he'd ever done and hearing stories from Mary Poppins and his oodles of Broadway shows. And he had an Oscar for all that jazz. He was such a talented guy. And so getting to sit with him and learn from him. And then he also was a director in his later years. So I designed a show that he directed. And Julie Andrews, his ex-wife, came and saw the show, and I got to meet her. And so it was this amazing full circle moment where I got to be standing with Tony Walton and Julie Andrews, and she had saw a show I designed.
The little kid in me is jumping up and down and all of that for you. So I have what was that moment? What advice? Because you met both greats. What advice would you say you learned from both of them that still sticks with you now in your career?
I think kindness and care and helping others. I mean, what's so great about all the mentors that I've had is that they were so full of generosity and care and paying it forward. And that's something that I've definitely taken to heart in my life. And also when you screw up, because inevitably we all screw up when we're working, we're trying to do our best, but none of us are perfect. We always have mistakes that happen, but it's how bosses react to those mistakes. And Tony was always so kind. All of my mentors always so kind and constructive. And I think that is something I've carried with me 100%.
That's amazing, because a lot of times I feel like you're always so scared. They tell you don't meet your heroes, right? But
Right.
every chance I've ever had to meet a hero, they've always been so super nice.
Yes.
There's been a couple of times where I'm like, oh,
Right.
you're
They're like, oh,
introvert or something like that.
Right.
You know, so then you're like, oh, man, they're not even funny in person or whatever. But to hear
different
that
from
they
what's
were-
in your brain, right?
Yeah. But I mean, that's part of the reason why I started this podcast. So I could get that opportunity to ask the questions I would probably be too shy to on set. And then also you're there working. So it's not really,
Right.
you know, you're on their dime. So you can't be like, hey, by the way, so how'd you get started? What do you do?
Right. Give me
So-
all this information right now.
Exactly. And then a lot of times with the people that are behind the camera are the ones that don't sign as much NDA stuff. So they can share like real things that can really help you. And you've done so many things to help others, which we're going to get to, but I did not expect. Well, I kind of did, because I had it right here about that you helped archiving Tony Walton's work for the Library of Congress, but it didn't dawn on me that he was also Julia Andrews' ex-husband. So that you got a double whammy with that, especially with the Mary Poppins. Like,
And they remained best friends there until Tony passed away a few years ago. And they were just amazing people to get to meet and to be around, and to just getting to meet Julie. I barely remember the moment because I was just so awestruck, right? But I think I was lovely.
I'm the same way. I've been awestruck with a lot of them too, because like, especially if you're not expecting it type of thing, you're just like,
Yeah.
So again, back to the podcast, you get your questions ahead of time.
Yeah.
So I looked at your resume. I looked at your website, by the way, everybody, all the links will be below. So make sure you follow our guests and support them as well, because it's so awesome that they help independent podcasters like myself and be a guest. I just realized I didn't have your name up. Speaking of which, independent, we got to make sure you guys know who I'm talking to. So you can make sure you follow her and keep up with her podcast as well. But you have done that as a costume designer, as a stylist, as seamstress, like you've done it all, tailor, you've done all of those things. And you had this insanely hands-on phase in New York, tailoring, dressing, couture builds for Carelli Costumes. We literally just talked about this. Carelli, I think, the costumes?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but of course, they're not going to care about anything else probably in this besides, except for all the movie people. But I know there's a huge beehive. I almost said that wrong. Good Lord. So we have to get into it. What was it like working in costumes for Beyoncé?
It was pretty incredible. I was working at Carelli Costumes, and so I was doing whatever projects we took on. Oftentimes it was Broadway shows or cruise ships, or I got to tailor Liza Minnelli's stuff for a while, which was pretty amazing because she was one of our clients. And then we got Beyonce's 2009 World Tour. We got a huge chunk of the costumes. I mean, all the shops were kind of working on it, but we got, I think, the majority of the tour. And the tour was designed by Terry Mugler, and he lived like half a block down our street. And the assistant designer was Chris March from Project Runway, and he had actually rented a studio space in our shop. So he was already there, and that's how the connection happened. And so it was very cool to take all these, one-of-a-kind Terry Mugler pieces and then alter them for Beyoncé. And so the one that's on the cover of the program is the one that I spent the most time on. It was very intricate hand beading, and it was originally worn by Jerry Hall, and it's just massive beading on beading on beading on beading. And I remember she took it away to wear it for, like, they're doing a pre-filmed video segment, and I got it back because I had to do the hem still. And it was because she was walking through the streets of New York in this video. And so I got it back and I had to hand bead the hem, and my hands were black from all the New York City street dirt that was on the bottom of this dress. So that's definitely very memorable. And then a lot of her backup dancers were like robots. And so our downstairs team was making all the robots, but I was the closest person in the shop to the size of the dancers. So I definitely have a bunch of pictures of me in robot costumes.
I definitely need you to send those over for research purposes. I also could include in the podcast, because then I could be like, here, look at it here. And then it's right here. No, I don't know where I'm going to edit it in. So I was like trying to make it seem all cool, like I planned that ahead, because, but no, it's probably not going to be that great. But wow. So wait, correct me if I'm wrong, but was 2009 when she started wearing, I call them the onesies, but I know that's not the correct term for it. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess the one piece more so, like, were you the creator of that?
She had some, I mean, I was just a hand stitcher and a first hand. So I was doing a lot of the alterations and, you know, a big step in the process. And it was just very cool to be touching all those garments. I remember our last dress that the shop made was a very last minute thing. I think we had 12 hours from the time we heard we needed to make this dress to when it needed to be delivered. So we had every single person working in the shop on this one gold dress. And we finished it just in the nick of time. And I also remember this was in January of 2009, and there was a huge, massive snowstorm. So I remember trudging to the subway in like 3 feet of snow just to get to the shop because we had to deliver the Beyoncé costume. So that's a big memory in my mind.
I mean, the entertainment industry is so glamorous. I don't think people even understand the glamour.
Trudging an hour through the snow to get to the shop so I could finish
in the subway.
Yeah, for basically very low wages. But hey, I learned so much and I'm grateful for that job.
Speaking of that, where do you think, if somebody was interested in getting into design, where would you say would be the best place to start? Obviously, they would have to get trained in all the basics, but where do you think you got the biggest part of your education that helped you prepare you for where you are now?
For costumes, I feel like there's two main sort of ways in. It's either through the theater world or the fashion world. And it sort of also depends on what type of projects you want to be working on. If you want to work on more contemporary, fashion-forward shows or movies, I feel like fashion school is more the right lane. If you want to do more, I don't know, horror, theatrical or something, or period, I do feel that theater is maybe a good way through. I started in the theater side, and so I just fell in love with theater at a young age, but I didn't know that costume design was a career until my first semester of college. And I was pre-med when I started at UCSD, and I switched my major in 3 weeks. And because my one fun class was intro to theater design, and that was it. And so I'm really happy that I have a theater foundation because you sort of work in every area of the theater. You get to know how to do scenic and lighting and sound, as well as your main, category. And I learned how to sew, and I learned all the basics in fashion history, costume history, because you have to really be a historian, a psychologist. You have to wear so many different hats to do this job. It's not just about style and design. It's so much more than that. So I really think I had a well-rounded foundation starting through theater.
Now, I grew up in a film family, and my father was like talking about how important it is for the talent to feel confident in not only just in how they look, but how they feel in their garment. And so when you brought up the psychology of it all, I'm sure that plays a lot into it, because if they're not confident in their clothes, literally, they may not feel confident in their role.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a situation where you had to like kind of adapt because of that? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, absolutely.
I'm going to say something even more fascinating, but...
No, absolutely. I mean, there's been moments where maybe the actor and I are not on the same page about a costume, and it's a process, right? Like sometimes we come at things with totally different ideas about the character, and the goal is to be on the same page. I can't just, you hear stories of costume designers like, you have to wear this, but you can see an actor be uncomfortable and not feel confident in their character, and it's just never going to work. I don't think you can force someone to wear something. It's just not how it goes. You have to be on the same page. And so it's a process. And you talk about, well, why do you think the character wouldn't wear this, or why would they wear this other thing? And you really break it down, because it's not really about the style or garment itself. It's like about the feeling. And I always start with foundation, like footwear, like shoes, like what is the character's foundation? Is it uneven? Is it solid? And you ask questions about every single thing in their wardrobe. Where do they get it? How long have they had it? Do they take good care of it, or do they throw it on the ground? I mean, there's a million things that you could ask about every single piece. So it's so much more than, oh, this looks good. Like, what does that actually mean? Especially when you're doing someone who's broken and ripped and distressed, and, it just has to feel right.
What is your process as far as, I've mainly been working as an actor for the last 20-something years. I haven't worked that much behind the scenes in like forever. I can't even remember it now. I'm trying to think of it on the top of my head. what, like, as far as like even just getting your job, the whole, like from beginning, like how do you start? Or do you hear about a project and like, ooh, I'm gonna put my hat in the ring for that? What makes it sing to you? What kind of projects do you, because you're all over the place, girl. All over the place. Literally, like from horror to dramedy, like everything. The Great Gatsby to Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bloomhouse, by the way.
I love it.
Yeah, just for you. I will. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, that's what I love about this job is that I can do everything. I can do so many different things. It's a way different challenge, but I do start the process the same no matter what the story is. And it sort of starts with, I used to have an agent, now I have a manager. It starts with my manager sending me scripts, and also I'm looking out to see what projects I'm interested in and then going after those. So it's sort of a mixture of projects come to me, and then I also am searching out what's interesting to me. And then once I interview and get a project, it's about the research and so much of breaking down the script. Okay, what costumes do we need? How many? Do we need multiples? What stunts are happening? Like you figure out all the logistics. And at the same time, you're digging into the research of the characters and getting thousands of images together. Like I like to get as many images as possible and then pare down to what is correct. Like my movie Freaky, Vince Vaughn's outfit, I had like hundreds of images for it, and then I pared down until I only had 2 images that I based his outfit on. And it's like, no, this is what it's going to be exactly. And you sort of whittle it down to the right thing. And then oftentimes you're shopping and getting lots of options and trying them on with the actor. But it's a lot of spinning plates all at once, because then in addition to all the research and breaking down the script, then you're trying to hire your staff, and then you're talking to all the other department heads, what their color palette's like, what's the DP doing, what type of camera are they using, are we shooting on film, are we shooting on digital, because that changes what kind of patterns we can have on camera, because certain things on digital strobe so much more than it does on film. And then so you're working with them, and then you're talking to the production designer, and it's just a huge list of all the different people you have to talk to, a lot of communication, and then being out in the world and shopping and sourcing. And then if you're building things, talking to the tailors and the makers. And yeah, I just liken it to those magic act where people are spinning like 30 plates at once.
It sounds exciting.
Yes.
In college, I worked as a dresser on a theater production, and I remember being like, "Wait, this is a job." So it makes sense, because when you're working in such a high, fast-paced environment, you do need help with somebody zipping you or lacing you or getting everything on without getting it all wrinkled, which is another part. What would be some of your tips, even for, I guess, for on-air talent, or like things to make your job easier? Like, what are some of the things that are, like things they shouldn't do? Like, hey, don't go on a diet after I weighed you, or don't start GLP-1s, or vice versa. Now is the time to join the gym and get all bulked up, knowing that you're supposed to play a certain size or whatever.
Right.
I don't know.
Or if you want to do that, just let costumes know, right? Like, this is my plan. This is what I'm doing. I'm going on a diet, or I'm strength training for this role, or XYZ. I expect my body to shift in this way, or can I keep coming in for having new measurements taken once a week? It's all about communication, because I don't want to stop an actor from doing anything that they need to do, but I also need the information, right? Actors too, like, have all your updated measurements organized and ready to send to your costume team. Or that's what's very helpful. You'd be surprised how many actors have no idea what their pant size is. And I know it's different from, it's different from different brands, but
for women,
but I feel like measurements, like inches, like knowing, like having a tape measure and taking regular measurements, or having someone take like regular actual measurements, because I actually don't want to know pant size or clothing size. I want to know what the actual like centimeters or inches are, like, because that stuff doesn't change. Whereas sizes, we all know that every brand is totally crazy and different, and designer brands versus Old Navy versus Gap, it like runs the gamut, right? I mean, I swing wildly between, I think, 6 different sizes, because depending on where I'm shopping.
And I will shop places because the sizes are confident. I'm like, wait, I like the way you see me in this outcome. But I was even thinking like a lot of times when an actor might get pregnant or so on, and they have to start hiding things or making garments around that. Like, have you been in that situation where you had to, yes, pregnant, but just something where you had to work around a certain thing? And how do you, I guess, have that conversation with someone if they're trying to hide it, but you can tell what's going on? Or, you know, because like, I know for myself, even my agent will ask for my numbers and different things. I'm like, well, let's wait until the beginning of the morning.
Yeah.
After I've had my coffee, the bloating's gone away, depending on the time of the day, and if the moon's full, and you know, like there's different things that play into it. But when I was pregnant, it was like, okay, how long before I have to tell them before they notice anything?
Right. And I think we always have sizes on either. So say someone says they're a size 8 pant, we always get a 6, an 8, and a 10, and sometimes a 12 too, because you just never know. Again, with branding, sizes being all over the map. And also, I hate to have an actor feel uncomfortable. I want to make sure I have something that will fit no matter what, even if it's a little big. I'd rather that than not have the right thing, because it's like so mental. It's such an intimate process. It's such vulnerable place for an actor to be in. So like I do everything in my power to make it as comfortable and easy as possible, because like I never want anyone to feel uncomfortable in a fitting. So it's more just like communication, but I can definitely tell when things are changing. But often it's great when an actor like tells you something's happening. Like when I designed the movie We Have a Ghost with David Harbour, and we had a hurricane hit New Orleans, and we had to be down for almost a month for the city to get back together again. And when we restarted, he had to start gaining weight for his movie where he played in Violent Night, where he played like an ass-kicking Santa Claus. So he had to start putting on weight like very quickly. And so I luckily had a ton of different sizes of his outfit, because we had harnesses and stunts and lots of things happening to him and his stunt doubles. So we had the right sizes, but he definitely changed sizes dramatically over the last few weeks of that production because he was gaining weight for another role. And so you have to like, and the buffer would have been fine had we, but you know, sometimes you can't help the weather.
No. And that's the joy of working with working actors, right?
Yeah.
Now, I have to get into your more, how do I put this, controversial stuff that you do. It's not really controversial. It is if you live in a right to work state. You know what I mean? I want to shift things a little bit because I really respect this about you. I come from a union family. My husband's in a union. Of course, our mutual friend that I met you through is in a union. So I want to hear about your organizing that you did with your local for 829. Can you share a little bit about that? Like what that process was, what made you get into that as well, and why it's important to be a union member as well?
I joined 829, I think, way back in 2011. And so I've been, a proud union member for quite a while now. And, within the first year that I joined, I was invited to take part in the Young Workers Conference. And I was brought in as like a very young union member and seeing what the process was like and seeing what it means to actually be a union member. And I thought that was like so special. And it really got me interested in being a part of this union and helping other people, and seeing how much the union helped others was like so important to me. And then with pay equity, the huge movement started from the Costume Designers Guild. It's also, so there's two main unions for costume designers. It's the Costume Designers Guild on the West Coast, 892, and then the United Scenic Artists on the East Coast, 829. And since I started in New York, I started in 829, but I joined 892 in 2019. And so proud dual card holder of both those unions. But I became the co-chair of both pay equity committees in both unions, which was quite a lot of work. But I mean, they were sort of tandem enterprises because they were both going after the same thing on different contracts. And so it was just so important to bring to light how much costume designers work, and the work is so important and what we do. And we just, wanted to make sure that we were being paid fairly for equal work.
Yeah. Share a little bit about that, because I feel like a lot of times with actors, like we're auditioning, we're taking classes, we're doing all the different things to try to prepare for a role. So even when you're not on a project, you're working. I mean, you might not be getting paid for it, but then when you finally do make that, that's why we can kind of charge those big bucks, as they say, but it's for all the prep that goes into it. For you, a lot of it, I feel like it's done before you even you were just talking about the process earlier, that a lot of that project is before you're even on set. So how do you go about making sure that you're not doing a lot of work off hour or not getting paid for it? My husband was always, with his, he's like, don't make me write you up. And we're going to have to do, I can't even think of the word, but you're going to have to write gosh, he would be mad at me because he says it all the time. You know what I mean? When you have to write up your manager because somebody's working that shouldn't be working, whatever it's called. I can't think of it now, but needless to say.
Yeah, it's really, you have to keep a lot of personal boundaries, and it's taken me years to get to this point, but also it's because I have a lot of experience under my belt too. When you're a young designer, it's really hard because you do get taken advantage of, but you also want to prove yourself. So it's a really gray area of doing cheap labor, free labor, but now I make sure my staff doesn't work a minute for free. They always get paid for every minute. I mean, that's what I can do as a boss, is make sure that my staff is taken care of, right? That's like the number one thing. But for myself, I've had to create pretty hard boundaries of, well, I'm contracted for 12 to 14 hours, depending on the contract. I should stop working after 14, even though there's always a million things to do. And I've sort of carved out a routine for myself. But then also, when you're trying to interview to get a project, you're often doing 40 to 60 hours of work to get the job. You're doing your design boards to try to show the director and the producers that what your ideas are for that film. And I really, really try to not do design boards unless they adamantly ask for them, because it is over a week of my life, and oftentimes for a movie that you don't even get. And then you don't get paid for any of that work anyway. And so, you try to ask for like a soft prep week to try to get paid back some of those hours that you put in. But it's really tough because I feel like we should get hired on the basis of our resume or our work or the conversation or what the interview is like. But having to do all these boards and also having to do them before you really get to know the director or get to know what their direction is. Like, I won't do them until I've had an initial meeting, because I want to know where the director's head is at, like what they want for these characters. I don't want to just guess out of nowhere. Right. It's really tough because sometimes there's jobs you really are dying to get. And so you do those tons of design boards, but then it makes it so then every designer feels like they have to do all this work for free. And so it's a, constantly important thing that we keep trying to work on and try to get paid for, reimbursed, or do less of these boards. But it's, one little aspect of it all.
Now, I was reading through, and let's be blunt, like for years, costume designers have not been paid at the same level as art directors or even set directors, despite carrying equivalent or even the same creative and managerial responsibilities. Because I can't think of a film where the costumes weren't a main part. Like, there's some shows we only watch for regular jokes that was recently canceled. Like, our reboot. I'm gonna stop giving hints, but like, it makes the show. It can make or break the show, for that matter. That in bad ways, allegedly. Yeah. So I'm curious for you, like, how did you rally the troops? Or I'm sure you didn't have to rally troops, but make sure that you skated that line. Because like you mentioned, this is one of those industries where you kind of don't want to rock the boat too much, because then you might not get a job. But at the same time, you have to advocate for yourself and the people working for you.
It's really tough, right?
Yeah.
You want to fight for what you believe in, but you also want to make sure you keep getting work. So it's tough, but also this is a movement that we all very much cared about. The movement started almost 50 years ago. And so the fact that we just 2 years ago got a huge chunk of pay parity. So we did bring everyone to the same scale rate as art directors, except for our half an hour costume designers and our ACDs. And so we're still working on it. We still have, ways to go, but we got a huge amount of it. And I think people saw, yes, we do equivalent work, but also we're not taking away from the amazing production designers and art directors. Like, they do incredible work, and they're our colleagues and our collaborators, and we love them. We just want to get paid the same because we're doing such similar jobs. And there's studies, there's research that shows that our jobs are like slightly different, but similar amount of effort and work. So it was a lot of data, a lot of, so much of it was spearheaded by the Costume Designers Guild. I joined the Pay Equity Committee a little bit a few years after it got started, but then I was so excited to become a co-chair and to help our team get across the finish line, or at least a huge chunk of it across the finish line. But it was definitely so many hours of work for years. I mean, there were some weeks I was working like 20 hours a week in addition to designing a movie, just to get all of that done and to get, studies and polls and engagement and so many Instagram posts and reels. And it's a lot, but it was a huge team effort. I was one cog in the wheel, but I was so happy to be a part of it. So both coasts got a huge chunk of pay equity 2 years ago. So it was pretty cool to be a part of that.
That's amazing. I want to bring up another thing all around the topic. So why do you think that because I'm like, just thinking about it, even on set, I felt like wardrobe, I wouldn't say that they were on the same level as the DP or the sound or engine or direct. I wouldn't say, but so close. Like, they were right there in the video village. Like, they were very involved in like figuring out how to hide mic packs, like the whole thing. They're so important because, like, if there's any mistakes, like continuity wise, it can really make a difference. So I'm really glad you guys have done that. But why do you think they kind of undervalued costume designers?
I think because it's seen as women's work. A lot of it goes back to we're a majority female category, and clothing, frivolous. It's just clothes. You just go to the mall. Like, it's not at all. It's like 1% of what we do, right? It's such backbreaking labor, and it's a huge managerial role. You're in charge of so many people, and it's so psychological, and you're a therapist to your actors, to your team, to other department heads. You're like in the center of the storm, essentially. But I really feel like it was seen as clothing is frivolous. And also, so much of what we do is not seen by other departments because we're on our oftentimes the costume department is super far away from the rest of the office. And so we're working kind of isolated, and then we're either out shopping. And me as the designer, I go on set to establish costumes, and then I have to run away. I have to do other fittings. I have to go shopping. I have to talk to my staff. And so no one on set really sees me do my work. Like, when I'm on set, my work is basically almost done. And so you're just seeing a lot of times people are like, oh, the costume designer's just standing around. It's like, well, I'm standing here to get this established. And once it's established, I have to go run around. Oftentimes I'm getting 30 to 40,000 steps a day. It's like that intense. And so, but it's not seen. And also costumes, if it's done really well, especially if it's like contemporary or it's not a quote, capital C costume movie, it blends into the rest of the story, but that's on purpose. That's by design. But then therefore people don't recognize the artistry and how hard it was to make it feel true. And so it's very much when our job is done well, it's invisible.
Well, it's hard to ignore the job you did in Five Nights at Freddy's. I always mess this up because I'm like, it's like Five Nights
so many
fries, currents, and 2s and 4s and 5s. My daughter's always correcting me, so she's like, just do F and F and it. I'm like, girlfriend, that does not help me. So I'm really glad that I wore this shirt because I can keep seeing it. And I'm like, oh yeah, Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah.
But there was a scene, I want to, so it was Faz Night or something.
Faz Fest. Yes.
Faz Fest Night. Okay. That's it. Faz Fest, not night. Where not only did you guys have the main characters that you had to take care of, but all of those extras and costumes and had to look like the animatronics. I don't want to give too much away in case you haven't seen it, because some people do wait until it's home streaming, which it is home streaming. So
yes,
you please watch. I don't want to don't want to give too much away, but at this, because it's a really cute, good movie. If you're into Five Nights at Freddy's, I thought part 2 was maybe better than part 1. but I am biased because I'm speaking to. Yeah. Honestly, I do because it's so hard, I think, to do a sequel that's good. And so if you do a good sequel and like tell a completely different story and was able to bring in new characters with it. But I want to know for your side, like, because it had already been established and there's obviously a time period you had to work with too, which that time period of clothes is coming back. So that had to be helpful. But then to do the costumes on so many extras with so many different sizes that I'm sure all of the guys lied about their height. No, I'm kidding. It's a well-known fact. Like a lot of people lie about their height on IMDb, Wikipedia, especially the men. And I'm guilty of that because when I'm acting, I'm 5'6". When I'm modeling, I'm 5'7" because I'm 5'6 3/4. So depending on what.
Well, you got to use it to your advantage, right? And it's like close enough that you're like, again, psychological. How do people read that 5'7" versus that 5'6", right? The way you split it up totally makes sense to me.
Thank you. Nowhere else does that make sense. But
right. But
I will admit, there's one actor that we both have worked with, Sanaa Lathan. I did say I was 5'7" to be her stand-in because she was, I think she's 5'9". Yeah. So I did have to wear like extra high sneakers every day.
But you're like, close enough. It's close enough.
Yeah, definitely close enough.
Yeah.
All things considered. So tell me, what was that process like for you with getting, because we're going to get into this conversation a little bit too, because we're running out of time, but with AI and everything, like, it's so easy for people to duplicate that is in the future. So I'm scared that they're gonna be like, oh, this is so expensive for us to really do it in real life. So how do you balance all of that and get so many people dressed and for them to realize it's important to use real people? Because I saw a stupid movie yesterday. I couldn't even finish it because it was digitally anonymous. Like they made the woman look like a weird anime character that was a real person. It was very weird. I just turned the documentary off. I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Anti-AI in films. So tell me how you will go about that.
I think for this, I mean, there's so many moving pieces, but FazFest started from day one for me. So it started with getting, literally, if anyone posted a cosplay on the internet, I got it. I have it. I cataloged it, right? So I had like 50 design boards full of the fans, because this was a love letter to the fans. And that was, I feel like, a huge responsibility for me. And so I was gathering different materials. And the other layer on top of it is that this took place in 2002. And so I needed, 2002. So I needed it to feel like pre-internet. And also it's a lot of like middle schoolers making the costume. So it had to feel that sort of kid energy. So you're making it look like a kid made it or their parents helped them make it. And it's pre-internet, so not too sophisticated. So you had those two aspects. And then you're getting found materials. And so I was gathering stuff, and my head tailor, Grace, was literally making so much stuff like every day, in addition to all the other million things we have to do. And so like the juggling of the spinning of plates and all the juggling. So you're doing that while you're also doing all your main characters and all the research, because the majority of this film is the early 2000s, which luckily is back in the stores. So I had lots to choose from, which was very helpful. But then we also have a huge flashback to the 80s. And so, you know, all the kids on set, all the background kids were like, my jeans don't stretch. It's like, I'm sorry, they don't. This was before that.
Pre-spandex kids.
Yeah, sorry, you're gonna have to deal with it. They were fine by the end, but it was definitely confusing for them to put on these like clothing without stretch in them.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah. I mean, I've heard of those.
Right.
Oh, I also remember like there was like certain things that you guys added in there that was like, I think I own that.
Yeah.
It's just that like, oh.
It had to feel like true to life. And then also in terms of the AI of it all, like I haven't used AI in anything, you know, it's a tool and it's such a complicated thing. And I feel like if union members are using it as a tool and it doesn't eliminate positions, like it's still the environmental cost. Like there's so many things that need to get worked out and talked about, because I'm like very worried about the implications of building all these data centers and low income minority neighborhoods. And so there's so much to AI that I am uncomfortable with, in addition to losing jobs. And so, you know, you can see on screen the love that my department put into the costumes, and like none of that could be replicated in a computer. And the weird, crazy stuff that came out of all of our brains as we were making these costumes. I mean, and also with the fans, what the fans made. And it's all unique and one of a kind, and the handmade quality of it, you would lose all of that if you made it in a computer. And so I think all of our efforts were 100% worth it.
I have to agree. I'm going to put in some pictures of some of when you said that, I was like, immediately I went to my phone and like pulled up some old events we've gone to where
I love it.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, I'm putting all those kids' pictures in there because my daughter loves Five Nights at Freddy's. And so, not Freddy's.
Yeah.
Oh, it isn't S. Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. I'm notorious for adding S's to things. So I'm like, wait, is it all D's or Freddy's? You know, I don't know. So you tell us, making sure. I definitely, I will add to that love letter. If you want to send me some, don't feel like you have to, because I have a ton. But that's amazing. I love that, because I think a lot of the kids probably that play the video game, that are excited about the movie, and then to see things that look like similar stuff that they could make or have already made. Yeah, I'm saying kids because everybody's younger than me for the most part at this point at all the different Comic Cons, Galaxy Cons that I go to. Besides the other illustrators that are there, or the other parents.
Seeing all the fans comment on my posts on social media and seeing they're like, I saw myself, or all my friends were like, that's totally you. I love every single one of those comments, and it just made my heart full. Like, hey, we did what we set out to do. And, you know, people got to see themselves in the movie, and that was awesome.
So speaking of seeing yourselves in movies, what do you want to do next? Like, what kind of film have you not done that you would like to do? Or is there something that you've done that you would like to do again? Or
I think
periods or something?
My biggest dream, I'm desperate to do a movie musical. I mean, I'll do it at any time period, but ideally it would be like the 50s or 60s or something mid-century. I love musicals. Again, I'm a theater girl. I have like 100 musicals on my computer. I love them so much. And so that would be a huge dream of mine. Would love, love, love to do a musical. Or just another period drama like The Supremes. I love doing The Supremes, so I would love to do another movie like that and stretch that part of my brain again, because I love anything in the 19th century. It's just, or the 20th century too. Like both those would be amazing.
Chris, since you brought it up, is there, because they've done so many reboots and they're doing all these different, Wicked. Yeah. They brought it from Broadway. What would be your top 5 musicals you would love to work on if they happen to make it in there?
Oh, God.
No pressure, just top of your head.
Well, I'll talk about a couple of my favorite contemporary musicals. So if they ever made these into movies, I would be like, please. So my 2 favorite modern musicals are Next to Normal and Fun Home. And I know there was like a Fun Home movie in the works at one point, and so I was like desperate to get on it. I made like a 50-page design packet, so I was like, please, I want to do this so badly. But those are my 2 favorite contemporary musicals. But I literally, and if it's a musical, I'm in.
Like anything but Chorus Line, because that's literally the same outfit, the whole thing. Just kidding. That's one of my favorite ones. So I was just
so iconic. I mean, those costumes, those gold costumes are so iconic. You can't really reinvent that.
And like the black leotard that they wear the rest of the time. Like, oh, this is gonna be hard. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And then who are some of your favorites, or that you look to for style? Necessarily style, because I love your red carpet style, by the way. I love your bold colors and print. I was just like, oh, I love every outfit she wears, and like the velvet and like even yourself, you have such a bold look to yourself. I'm curious, is there any designer or anybody that you kind of look forward as, or even artists for that matter, that you look towards as a inspiration for your work?
I think for me, I'll sort of think about what inspired me to get into this career. I mean, the 2 designers that really inspired me as a teenager were Martin and Eiko Ishioka, and 2 designers I got to assist and work for and then learn under them. And so they inspired me so much. And my favorite movie is Moulin Rouge. I've seen it over 300 times. And then getting to work with Catherine Martin and Baz Luhrmann for so many years was such a dream come true, and to learn so much from them. And then Eiko Ishioka, she won an Oscar for Bram Stoker's Dracula and some of the most iconic costumes that have ever existed. And getting to sit with her around her kitchen table over cups of green tea and hear about her work and, you know, what drives her. She had an all white apartment. Everything was all white. I was her personal tailor for a while. And so I like made a white TV cover to go over her TV. So it wouldn't be like this big black rectangle in her whole white apartment. And then she was working on the Spider-Man musical at the time. So she had all of her renderings, the bright, bold colored renderings on the wall. So like literally full white apartment. And then those renderings, she's like, this is how I focus on my work. And then she had a uniform. She wore all black basically most of the time. And so I made her skirts. Like I made her like wool winter skirts, all black, A-line. And so I actually have my own uniform for work. So sort of like Eiko did, where I have the same tailored black trousers and you know, same like black t-shirts, and then I sometimes throw a nice bold print on top of it, you know, for fun, because I do love a good print. But it's nice because I don't have to think about it, because I have so much to think about on a movie. So it's nice to just. And then I'm also really inspired by 60s Hawaiian. My uncle lived in Hawaii my whole life, and I was visiting him on Oahu for my entire life. And I just fell in love with Hawaii and that era of textiles. And so most of my evening wear are like Hawaiian muumuus.
I love that. I have one of my prized possessions, although I've yet to figure out a way where it doesn't make me look like I'm smuggling an entire football team underneath my breath. But I got it at Goodwill, and I'll go to Goodwill with like a friend or a mom or my mom, and I'll find tons of great stuff. But I go by myself, I can never find anything. This was the one time I went. I think I went by myself, actually. Now I'm trying to think back to it. And I found this beautiful, like 1960s muumuu style, but it was A-line and had the cord button that's like all cool. I don't know, girl. I'm out of my depth. With the little cutesy little button that you just, and I love wearing it, and I have heat triggers. And I suffer for the craft of the fact that it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But it's such a pretty fabric. It's so pretty, the things they made in Hawaii. My mom used to live in Oahu. And I just remember like going around like, oh, this is how people should dress. Because before then, much like yourself, I wore all black because that was my costume on set. That was my costume when I worked at spas.
It's just easier to have, right? Yeah, you're just like, I don't have to think. I can just, so everything in my closet's black. I was a New Yorker for 15 years. Like I have a closet full of black stuff.
It doesn't get dirty. It doesn't reflect. It's perfect.
Yeah.
But now, you know, after having my daughter, actually, it was like, I need more color, because I feel like I'm always going to a funeral when I show up to all these kids events and everybody's in bright colors. And
you're like, okay, got to adapt to this new chapter of your life. Like more color. Also, colors are fun. Yeah. Like that's what I work in all the time, is bright, fun, amazing colors.
No. And so speaking of that, how did you feel about Pantone's color of the year of Cloudy Dancer or Cloud Dancer?
I was a little like, that one? Okay. I mean, it is a color that's useful, but I wouldn't say, I mean, maybe it does reflect our current times. I don't know, like of this murky.
I'm like, let's just start all over. They paint everything white.
Fresh, you know, I remember, I guess it's been over like 10 years ago, they had a fuchsia that was the Pantone color of the year, and they did a whole like makeup line, and I still have that lipstick, and like that was my color, a nice bright magenta. I was like, give me that.
Yeah, I was hoping for like a rich burgundy color, because I felt like I was seeing it everywhere, but it might be like when your friend buys a car, you see it everywhere. Like in my head, I was just seeing it everywhere. I was seeing burgundy, oxblood, somewhere in between there. I was seeing it everywhere. And then also that pale, like blush color, but they did something similar. And that was kind of similar with the Mocha Cafe, where it was a light brown kind of color. But it was like something similar to that, but more pinky.
Didn't they have millennial pink a few years ago too?
Yeah, like that. That was kind of peachy. So it wasn't weird. Like a lot of the colors they've said didn't really match up. So I was like, ooh, maybe they'll do like a blush rose color, or burgundy, or deep green. And no, not a lack of color. Yay! Because I'm raised by an artist that's behind me. Yeah. So anyway, I've had so much fun talking with you. I want to make sure everybody stays in touch with you. Please share where you would like for everybody to follow you, keep up with you, plug your podcast as well. Share a little bit about that. And
I'm usually on Instagram most of the time, so WAA Costume Design. And then I do have a podcast called Tales from a Costume Designer. That's TALES, like stories, Tales from a Costume Designer. And I interview not just costume professionals, but also filmmakers, directors, and writers, and DPs and production designers. And it's just a blast getting to hear about how people got in the industry, their advice, what their process is. So it's more about them as a person than the project. We do talk about their projects that they've designed, but I want to know about people. That's what I love doing. It's like my career is learning about people and characters, and I have the same passion in my outside life too.
Right. Well, it has been so much fun chatting with you and getting to know you. We're going to definitely check out your podcast. And if everyone, make sure that you like, subscribe, stay in touch. This has been another episode of the E-Spot. Welcome to season 10. This is the first episode of many to come. And thanks again for tuning in to the E-Spot.
Ride is tenant, so she ride me when I'm in it. I'ma be back in a minute.
I'ma be back in a minute. Hey, look, I'ma be